The butthurt British media got a revenge dish served cold by Oscar Piastri, who learnt from a disappointing sprint race to take victory in the main race at Spa. Hamilton makes almost all the overtakes of the race, and we endure many laps of Lando is coming back at Piastri, which never eventuated, Damo.
No.
Also, we should just touch on the FIA being a little scared of the water. That and more in today's recap of the Spa Belgium Grand Prix.
Let's go.
I'd like to apologize to everyone out there for that really poor intro as I tried to read it all out. How are you, Damo?
Take two. All right. No worries. Hey, good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, mate. Not too bad. What a race we had, mate. It was better than my race on last weekend, that's for sure.
Well, we could touch on that because I'm not sure how far you got into what would be deemed a race, but
3 corners.
Yeah, 3 corners. And what exactly happened, mate?
I got
mixed up in a bit.
Yeah, I was watching 2 competitors, one dive the other, and I thought, oh, this could be an incident. And I was watching them, turned into the corner, and then saw another mini a little bit further down the track having a half spin, spooked myself, went around, and contact happened from there, which was a front-to-front contact. It kind of hurt a little bit, but I am injured, but apparently not from the race.
Yes, apparently not. So, yes, you saw a nice little old machine, a little Escort, I think it was, wasn't it? Or is it a
little Escort?
Yeah, it came around the corner, had nowhere to go, and unfortunately, nose-to-nose contact. So that was your weekend done. But
it was.
Yeah, look, that was definitely more exciting than I think the Spa race was because...
Oh, you're going to be that harsh on the Spa Grand Prix? I thought it was a good race, mate. I liked it.
Well, it had its moments. I was certainly a little scared. I was getting a bit worried about the pit stop, and had they screwed over Oscar again? Had something happened? And sure enough, he just got it done.
Yeah, you said to me earlier that you had a little bit of anxiety during the race as a result of that. So talk me through that. What was giving you the anxiety? Was it the British fires?
Well, there is a lot of it. I mean, even Zach Brown came out, post last race talking about how he felt like Norris was like the cold-hearted, like the cold, thoughtful driver. And I'm just thinking, like, Zach, what have you been smoking? Because you got no idea about your people. And so I just feel like if anything's going to happen, it's always going to be against Oscar. I'm getting a touch of the negative Nellies. And then I just thought, this pit stop, they put Norris on the, Norris has stayed out. He's on the hards. The mediums are going to die. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what I'm going to do, But thankfully, Pirelli and their genius, which we'll touch on a bit later, but it seemed to work out for Oscar because he was the tire whisperer.
He was. He drove exceptionally all weekend, really. And I don't think he got enough credit. But I mean, on the Zach Brown thing, Zach is definitely in Lando's corner. You are correct, but I think Andrea Stella is more in Oscar's corner. So I think there's a balance there, which is fine. Yeah. But it's an interesting thing. I mean, it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Because you do feel like, oh, here we go. How are they going to swing this so that Lando picks up the win, but it wasn't to be.
Nope.
Oscar was not going to be stopped. He had his grandfather there, he had his mum there, who was clearly about to propose to Yuki over the weekend. But look, I don't know if you saw the Jolyon Palmer take of the overtake, but that dissected it perfectly.
I saw a short snippet, not the full, because he normally does like a thing on you, like on the YouTube channel, I think. But I saw the snippets a little bit,
Yeah, so he did a review on why Oscar had far more battery than Lando, and that was purely because Lando used it all at the start trying to get away, but failed to get away. And even on the run down the hill, Oscar was lifting and harvesting basically as they ran down, and then just pummeled him outside of there. It was a beautiful setup, and he learned a lot from that sprint race on what he needed to do. And he made sure that he overtook him, and it was never going to be in doubt. So well done, Oscar. It was a pleasure to watch.
He didn't say anything about it, but it did feel like he did learn his lesson, once bitten, twice shy. And we may as well go into that sprint and do a bit of a recap now. And because he did absolutely brain them. He smashed them in the quali. He did a great job most of the weekend, but he really smashed them in that quali and just really threw down the gauntlet. And I guess if you're looking at the whole field, there was a few notable mentions where you had Ocon in 5th, Saints in 6th, and then obviously Ollie Behrman got 7th, and that some mix up to what we're usually looking at, because a few people just, Hamilton had his spin. A few people just ended up out of position, and so they all seized it. So it was an interesting little quality session for the sprint.
Yeah, the changes that Ferrari made in particular sort of worked a little bit for Hamilton, but then worked against him just in the qualifying, just finding that balance that, to be on the edge. But yeah, no, we did. We had a bit of a mix up. We had some different grids, some different people, and, Williams were really nice to swap the drivers each day. Where it was Sainz on the Saturday in the sprint, and then Albon on the Sunday. So yeah, it's good to see that, and I think the midfield there's a big race in there. Like, clearly Williams should be at the peak of that most of the time, but yeah, I mean, watching State come up and be more consistent, Haas drop in there, and just nobody's got the ascendancy in that mid group just yet. It's really, really good. But you might want to take yourself off mute there, Damo.
Yes,
before you speak.
Before I speak, thank you, because I was coughing, so I put myself on mute. Didn't quite click the button. But you're right. It was just that mid pack is really, people who can seize the moment. No one is seizing the positions and doing it consistently. So there is that opportunity kind of every week at the moment. And then, probably just the last thing before we get into the actual sprint race was that Antonelli really kicked off a terrible weekend.
We'll touch on that later.
Yeah, qualified last. So we'll touch on it later. But it was that was a bit of a shock and a surprise, I think. So, lap 1 of the sprint.
Yeah.
What does Thanos say? Inevitable. It was just, there was nothing Oscar could do with that skinny little wing that Max had on his. He just absolutely brained him down that straight. Just ended up like a full, I think, car and a half in front, and it was just, that was over from there.
We knew that was going to happen. If you watch qualifying, right, the pace that Oscar had was all through that midsection and slightly in the last, but that first, like, Max was like 4/10 up in that first bit. So you just knew that if he gets a half decent run, Oscar's a sitting duck. And he was. And, kudos to RedBull. They take full advantage when they can to play at the front, and Max did it well. Oscar was smart. We'll talk about this a bit later too, but he had a couple of opportunities to challenge and decided against it because he knew that it's better to just finish and not go for an outright than crash.
Accumulate those points. That's right. It was a masterstroke from RedBull just to go, right, we're going to have a dry run, so let's seize that best we can and put on the little skinny package, and bang, they succeeded. So they did the right thing, and then brought it back for the race. So that was all good. I guess for the rest of it, not a lot happened throughout the the rest of the race, it was pretty well largely unchanged. A few people jumped up a little bit here and there, but it was obviously Max took that win, Oscar, and then followed by Lando. And then you had P4, we had Charles. Ocon remained from where he qualified in P5, Sainz in 6, and Behrman in 7. So,
which is a shout out to Ocon, because that's a pretty impressive quali and finishing result.
Yep.
And even, Behrman as well. Also very, very good. The other one that I'll note, I know it didn't make points, but Bortoletto in 9th, I thought was an exceptional. He qualified 10th and he moved up one spot. So
he did.
Good to see Stake, and he got the ascendancy over Hulk as well. So
finally.
Yes.
Well, that was a sprint race. Now the real stuff. We're going to the real quali and the race. What was your take on the quali session?
Quali was interesting. I must admit, I haven't watched all the quali. I only watched the last sort of 5 minutes because I was trackside at Winton.
Of course.
But it was interesting. Lando found the pace that he was missing from day before. And, he got it right, I think, at the right time for that track. I think if Oscar had nailed his first lap, it might have been maybe different, but they were pretty close. Like if you look at the 2 times between sprint and that, Lando, they're pretty close. So clearly Lando went away, had a look at all the data, worked it out, and found the 6/10 that he was missing. But Piastri, disappointed to not have the pole for sure, but probably quietly in the back of the head saying, I'm perfectly positioned for this. So I think it worked out well. Lewis had another struggle, same with Antonelli out in the Q1 session. I don't know if there's much you can say other than, he just didn't, neither of them had the pace in qualifying. That was probably the most crazy part of the whole thing. And again, Bortoletto got into Q3 10th.
Hooray. So, nice job.
Nice job again.
Yeah, he really did.
What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it was just interesting that Lando still does seem to be able to extract, that last little bit of extra bit. There's no doubt from a racing perspective that Piastri is, multiple times better, but just extracting that last little bit when Lando is comfortable in the car that the track is at, he was able to seize it. And I was half expecting Piastri to kind of be a bit more like come out and say it was more calculated, because that's how I sort of felt. I thought, Lando did really well, but he was actually playing the game. So whether he was legitimate or he was still lying about it, but that's what I initially thought. I thought, okay, he's learned from yesterday. He doesn't want to be first. But he said he just gave it all he could, and small mistake was the difference. So it was just a bit interesting to watch.
Yep. It's an interesting. Someone made a statement. I can't actually remember who it was. It may have been the race, but don't quote me on that. But the mistakes are the interesting part. When Oscar makes a mistake, actually no, it was Peter Windsor.
Peter Windsor.
He said when Oscar makes a mistake, it's well covered. Like you don't necessarily know that he's made the mistake. Whereas when Lando makes a mistake, you can actually see it. And he tends to drop away quite a bit from the mistake. So key differences between the two. He was only 0.08 something or other off of Lando's pole. And if you make a mistake, you probably suggest that he would have been up. But at the end of the day, he wanted to be P2 anyway. That's where you wanted to start. Otherwise, we're looking at a different result, possibly.
I know. And then the race. The race. I'm so glad. Like sometimes being on the other side of the world in Australia and the times that we have to put up with for these is absolute negative.
Yep.
But this was beautiful, because if I'd stayed up to watch it, I would have been pissed off because I would have had to have gone to sleep.
Yeah.
I would have given up after, maybe half hour, 40 minutes. But the beauty was I could just skip through the whole bunch of it, just get straight to the actual race, and away we went.
And away we go. Yeah, look, I agree. I actually stayed up because I'd been doing some editing from the weekend, so I'd stayed up a little bit later, and then it literally, I think as soon as they called that it was going to be a red and they weren't going to go out, I'm like, I'm out, turned it off, went to bed. And I got up in the morning and I watched it then. Well, I watched it on fast forward because I had to go to work, but either way.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't miss much.
Yeah.
Other than some anxiety.
Yeah, no. I mean, like the main thing I think was there's a clear directive from the FIA that at places like Spa, which has obviously got a bit of more recent checkered history, they're not willing to risk it at all. And I do feel like I wish they had have said that and just said, the circuit is too dangerous in the wet. We're not going to risk it. And rather than this, we playing around with the visibility and stuff, it's just like, man, the way it was crazy. Like they used to do some stupid stuff right back in the day. And I'm glad that we've moved forward from that. But there was that break in the weather that they really should have stayed out behind the safety car and then just powered through that bit of rain. That's what I think should have happened. But end of the day, they made the call. And we didn't get an interrupted race, which is a good thing. But yeah, everybody had to wait just a little bit longer for things to kick off.
Yeah, they did. It's been done to death by the other podcasts, I'm sure. So I won't bore everyone by going over and over and over it. But yeah, ultimately what needs to happen is we need a better wet tire that can actually be driven in the wet, not monsoon levels. And there needs to be an element of man up by the FIA, but also probably just a faster directive. Like in terms of what happens is they come in, they wait, and then once it clears, they go, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Until race start. Well, no, they should be in the cars waiting. And then the moment that it clears up, green or under yellow, follow behind the safety car. Then after 5 minutes or whatever it is that it's half cleared, go.
Correct. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all right. Well, so your pit stop strategy, you didn't like the pit stop strategy. You sort of touched on that.
Yeah.
What didn't you like about it? Is it the fact that they gave Lando the opportunity to switch it up, whereas you feel like Oscar never gets that opportunity, or it's obviously a little niggle there?
Yeah. Look, I think ultimately there's a couple of components that I didn't like. And I think ultimately they were letting the drivers or almost forcing the drivers to make that decision for them. They went to both drivers to choose what they wanted to do. They were really, especially with because Piastri came in first with Lando, they had time and they were talking through the options a lot with him, and it was up to him to make that choice to go onto the hards. I think ultimately it was just more the whole strategy game. The way they did it was, I feel like, a bit of a failure. They were just fortunate that they had the best car by a mile, and so they were always going to get first and second. I mean, ultimately, the first failure was not stopping Lando in a double stop scenario, right? Just tell Lando, double stopping, ease off into the bus stop. All it would have taken would be a little bit of a lift off. They would have had more than enough time to do the double stop, and it would have made a far more stressful race, right? Because Oscar and Lando would have been together. I think so. So for me, it was more that so Oscar made that call, and then when they gave those options and they ended up making a different strategy, which is the right thing for Lando's crew to do, I just had this moment of, I've got so many laps to go. I really hope that this isn't something that's going to be, a failure for Oscar, or because of the pit strategy.
Yeah, well, I will say this: when Sky F1 was banging on about, Oscar's going to have to make a secondary stop, I actually said in my head that's not going to happen, because last year he made the secondary stop and he lost out, and if he'd stayed out, he would have won that race. And I said in my head straight away, he is not going to be doing it, and especially when you looked at the times and how it was just stagnant. Like there was literally no push from Oscar whatsoever. So I think for me, I was like, I'm pretty comfortable. I know Lando slowly caught up to him, but that's Oscar's trait. It allows you to get closer, allows you to get closer, and then breaks your heart. And I think he did a tremendous job of controlling, and I think he does do a tremendous job at controlling the race when he's at the front, and he doesn't get enough credit for it, in my opinion. So, yes, all good.
All good. I was definitely comfortable because, as we sort of progressed through the race, he was really adamant. He was like, nope, tires are good. I'll go to the end. He was very confident. So that was really good. And then when the gap wasn't really coming down, that's when we saw Norris start to fumble the bag a lot. Had a couple of offs. I think it was 3 in total.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And really, that was the difference. Lando was having to push so hard that he was just constantly making mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think it just shows you that different mindset of someone that's in control, calm, and making the right decisions versus someone that's just like I've got to go for that win. And, otherwise I'm still going to be behind, when he probably at some point should have realized I'm going off the track here. I can't recoup that. I'm just going to sit in my race here, and I'm going to take second.
Yeah, look, I mean, kudos to Lando for trying. Look at the guy for having a crack at it. But I don't think he was ever really in a position, and you could see that. Yeah, every time that he tried to really make an impact, like, I know someone's like, "Oh, he's making up 7/10 a lap." Yeah, for a lap, not succession all the time. It was like these little moments where he'd make up and then he'd overheat or whatever, and he'd lose and then he'd drop, and it's not quite as easy as that. And the mistakes are just from over trying. So I think overall, Lando's probably just got to rein it in and understand when he's going to win and when realistically it's not on the cards, and that was never happening.
Indeed. Any other call outs? Because there was a little bit of that happened throughout the race where obviously Hamilton made epic overtakes in those first few laps and just.
Yeah, we'll leave that for the 6 key talking points. I think we've got that listed in there. So that's to come just after we go through our rubbish predictions, Damien, which we probably should move along to how we predicted and how it went.
Roll the intro.
That was quicker than our mate Mark.
Sorry. Clicked, Righto. So we kicked off our predictions with a standout performer.
We did.
And I chose Hadjar, expecting him to do really well. And he did.
Okay.
Not so well.
Yep. I went with Behrman.
You went Behrman, which is pretty good. He did
bad.
Very well for the weekend. Very well.
Not bad.
But not quite as good as what we chose both together. We felt like was the overall standout performer, which was Bortoletto, our Portello friend.
Our Portello friend, yes.
Yes, great job, Gabrielle.
Yeah,
great job. He did such a good job over the weekend. Really consistent. Just managed to drag out a result, got points. Yeah, well done.
Well done. Yep. 9th in both the sprint and the actual race, and 10th for both qualifyings as well. So just tremendously consistent and put Holt away quite easily this weekend, and I think that's a real step for him. So well done, Bortoletto. Congratulations on the Valve's standout performer.
Yeah. And then now on to the actual results. The sprint winner.
Yeah. Oh, geez, we really
So close. I had Piastri, and you had Leclerc. Really?
Yeah, it was upgrades and everything else. I was hopeful. Hopeful.
Obviously, Verstappen won that one, as we discussed. So
he did.
Yeah, no dice. No dice.
But Pole, you went with Piastri, which was close. I went with Verstappen, which was not so close. And it was Norris that got the job done, surprisingly, especially after the 6-10 deficit from the sprint quali.
That's right.
Well done, Lando, but no points for us there. No. On the winning side of it, good job, Damo.
Good job, Steve. We both picked Piastri.
Maybe we shouldn't pick the same, but sometimes that's going to happen. So screw you all.
I'm allowed to keep picking him because remember, you said that I was a jinx, and
I didn't say you're a jinx. I said if it happens again, you're not allowed to pick him.
Right. So good.
Very good.
Home free.
Free. Yeah. So P2, obviously, Lando Norris came home in P2. We both fluffed with that. You said Russell, who was P nowhere, and I said Leclerc, which was close but no cigar. And then P3 Leclerc obviously was there, and you said Hamilton, which was his teammate, which is pretty close, and I said Norris. So I was close. If I'd switched the second and third, I would have had both of them. But as it is, we just had 1 point between us, Damien.
Yeah.
What a standout weekend.
Absolute. Well, actually, it is a standout weekend because we got at least 1 point each. So that's impressive for us. All righty. Well, let's move to our talking points because
60 talking points.
Yes. I will kick off on my first one, which is Pirelli did a masterstroke by skipping that compound. I'm not sure that's what they intended the outcome to be, but it really worked for Oscar because if Lando was on a one-stop difference compound, he probably would have been making those advancements and maybe there would have been a real challenge happening. So I say, well done, Pirelli. Thanks for letting our boy Oscar win.
Oh God, they're going to run with that. You know, people who see this will then be putting it on X and everything. It's like, oh, the only reason that Oscar won.
That would be funny.
There is so much of that going on at the moment. I'm like, oh guys, you guys just need to pipe it.
Yes,
look, I agree. It was a masterstroke. It was perfect. It meant that Oscar was pretty comfortable, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that's it. What about your talking point?
My first key talking point is about Bortoletto. First clear victory over his teammate, Hulkenberg.
Yes.
As we said, qualified 10th in both the sprint and the main race and finished 9th in both. Oh, excuse me. Just got a hiccup in the middle of that. But yeah, no, I wanted to highlight this because I think when he came in, we saw a couple of little glimpses of how quick he can be. And then, you know, this car's been a dog for most of the year. Hulk obviously in the spotlight with getting a podium last weekend not last weekend, the weekend before, or 3 weekends before that, whatever it was. I thought it was a good step by Gabriel and not taking the ascendancy, I guess, but moving towards it and making good steps. And I'm looking forward to that. I mean, you base that, a couple little things like that, and then we've got Audi announcing new sponsors and stuff. It's just the whole program has a different feel to it now, you know, like it was a disaster at the start of the year, and now we kind of feel like there's quite a bit of hope for that team going in next year.
Yeah, I guess I can only reiterate again that it was an excellent weekend. Coming off Hulk getting his first podium, to really outstep and outclass your teammates. He did such a great job. And you're right, like the start of the year, you know, not just us, everybody was saying how bad that car was and how is Audi going to end up, you know, in some sort of competitive nature with a car and a team that's off the rails, but they really have just been building in the right fashion. And it's, if they can continue the trajectory, it is going to be great things for Audi coming into next year.
Probably should definitely clap Binotto, because I honestly think that he's brought
the magic
to that team. So well done, Stake, and we look forward to seeing how you keep progressing, and I can't wait to get rid of that green.
Yes.
What's your second key talking point there, Damo?
Mate, the Colapinto experiment or dollars, it's just got to end for Alpine. We've got to bring back Doohan, or we've got to drop in Bottas. I mean, like, if they want to do anything and salvage this year in any way, shape, or form, they need someone that can do better. They're falling further and further away, and poor Gasly, who's dragging results out of a shit car, he needs a second driver to be better. And like, this chase for dollars is just still not working. I mean, the kid, unfortunately, is at the back, and if they given Doohan that opportunity to build more momentum, he was just starting to get into those points, and he almost had those points, just missed out, but he was building the right direction. And it's almost like Colapinto's gone in the reverse, where he started better and has been falling away. So, I just think they've got to make a decision now. They either just accept their fate and end up at the end or the rear of the grid with the team's championship, or they drop someone in that can do better.
Yeah, hard to see them making it. I feel like they're kind of just going to lay in their bed and cry about it now. In their money. Yep. Yeah. I tend to agree. I think had Doohan stayed in that car, he would have brought more points to it. He was getting on top of Gasly. Maybe not in the races, but in terms of qualifying, he was starting to really get on top of him. And I just think a guy with that amount of speed, I know he made mistakes and there was a little bit of damage, but no more than what Colapinto's done. So look,
they're rookies.
They are rookies. They're going to cost you a little bit. So I just hope. I feel for Colapinto as well, though, because I feel like at the end of this year, both of those guys aren't going to get a shot anywhere else, and that means that their F1's career is doomed. And it's not really, Colapinto maybe a little bit more to him, but it's not really anyone's fault bar the teams.
Couldn't agree more. All right. What is your second talking point, mate?
My second key talking point, Damien, is Piastri is the modern day Prost. And I think with a little more speed. So we've said it plenty of times that he is kind of like Prost because he is very calculated and everything else. But I think we saw that particularly this weekend. This was the weekend where it all came together and you could really see the similarities between the two. In the sprint race, he held position. He did have a couple of shots like that he could have gone for, but just said, you know what? I'm just going to bring this home. I'm just going to get the points. I'm ahead. It's not worth it. And then in the race, he just that calculated understanding of his teammate. And I really think it's a real level of understanding Lando. He just knows what Lando is thinking and doing at any given point. And it puts him in such a strong position, especially on a weekend where he was really the faster driver all weekend. I just think it's amazing. So he wins when he has to win and he consolidates when he has to consolidate. That's the building of a championship. And I just wanted to point that out. And the similarities between Prost and him are just up here now, just with a little bit more pace. Prost was fast, but I think Piastri's just a little bit faster than what Prost was.
Yeah, I think you're right, because Prost was always, fast, but he was never the fastest driver, whereas Piastri has those moments where he is. I couldn't agree more, and I do think that he has really worked out how to race against Norris. I think he worked out how to race against Verstappen. Now, Verstappen changes the plays a lot, so he can mix it up and still get the edge, and that's why he's one of the best in the field. But I just think that he's just showing that dominance, and I think the difference that we're seeing, I think, from the media, despite a whole bunch of bias that was happening through the commentary at Sky Sports, is there was this it was almost like this expressed, like it's almost over sort of feeling where people like Brundle were they weren't happy, excited that Oscar had dominated. They were just like, wow, that's what you do. That's how you deliver a championship winning. They were almost exasperated with the fact that they can't keep pushing Lando because Piastri is definitely the best driver. And we're seeing, this stuff that's been popping up in the socials, Peter Windsor that's been, pushing a little more of that barrier as well, where I think people are starting to turn around and understand that it's Piastri's time.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's that's the sort of thing, isn't it? Like, there comes a time where you sort of start to understand that this guy is just good. Like, you just can't, like, you can bang on about this. The teammate's got the peak, and if he puts it all together, but he's not putting it together. And when they're not putting it together, they're not putting it together. It's simple as that. You can be the fastest guy in the field, undoubtedly. Yeah. But if you can't do that on a consistent, it's the basement level that makes the difference, right? Yeah. I've said it plenty of times. If your basement is higher than another guy's basement level, and your peak is just off him, you'll win. Yeah. Because they can only access that peak every so often. So look, we go to Hungary next, and we'll do a preview of that one in another pod. But, certainly feeling like it's in Oscar's favor again. So good for us.
It is. Now, my third talking point, is Ferrari are back.
Forza
the upgrades
Ferrari.
Are good.
Better.
I guess it was just great to see Leclerc. They barely covered him at all throughout the race, but he did a really solid job of just maintaining the pace and keeping that third position ahead of Verstappen. Then seeing Hamilton just be able to drive that car through the field, there's definitely Hamilton has problems with it on the edge at peak, no doubt, but clearly that something had changed in the setup, all those upgrades that helped that car be more balanced and consistent. So, it's always great to see that happen. And can I just call out, how good was the strategy for Ferrari? They got Hamilton up. They didn't screw Leclerc. Well done, Ferrari. There we go. That's my piece, mate.
Yep, that's very good. I agree. Ferrari are back. I think they're showing form. And just to clarify for Hamilton, which I didn't touch on, yes, he had a tough qualifying weekend, but they had made changes to the braking system on his car to give him better feel and so forth. And he was just coming to grips with how that all works. So I think he will get there. Don't you worry about that. But Ferraris, if they just start making these calls that are right and driving properly, then they'll be there or thereabouts. They'll cause some trouble, which leads me into my final talking point, and the final talking point that we will bring up, Damien, because this leads into the Mercedes. And my key talking point is around Antonelli and Mercedes losing their way. They are in the wilderness. Ever since this FlexiWing saga of Spain, they have been pretty much nowhere other than Canada. So for Antonelli, since Canada, he's had 2 DNFs and a 16th.
Yep.
That's not good enough. That's really bad. And I feel for the kid. Apparently he was in tears after qualifying. And that it's just too much pressure on these guys, right? Like, especially coming into a big team like that. And it's a team that hasn't delivered the car. Now, even George, who's now very experienced, is struggling with that car. Yes, he's still getting a result out of it, kind of like what Max is doing, but it's really hard for a kid to get that result if the car's really unbalanced. And at the moment, that car is just not good enough. They need a miracle because Ferrari are now second in the constructors, and Red Bull aren't actually that far away from them in the constructors either. And with Yuki managing to find a P7 with an updated floor in qualifying,
yes,
if he starts finding pace and scoring as well, you could actually find that Mercedes are in a world of trouble at the back end of the year. So that is my last key talking point. I think Mercedes are on notice, and they will be having to dig very deep in this little break that we have coming up post Hungary.
Yeah, I think some of that has been the car. So Mercedes do need to take responsibility for that as well. They need to take responsibility for the way they've hyped him up and thrust him into a major team. At the end of the day, these guys are still rookies, and we do need to give them some grace and some space. But it does feel like that, it's getting a bit on top of him. So hopefully the break does him well after Hungary, and both Mercedes and him can get back onto the right kind of level they need to be. Yeah, I mean, you just wonder if some of this Max stuff has really distracted Toto.
Oh, 100%.
Even though it's looking more and more likely, like what I suggested, that it's not going to come off, that Max is going to stay where he is. But George has been doing his best that he can, and he's been really delivering as a leader of that team. But yeah, it's just been tough going. And I was just having a quick look, and they're over 100 points behind Red Bull now. So they're in fourth and Red Bull's in third. So they're falling away. Yeah. Oh, no, they're not.
What are you doing, Damien?
Oh, apologies.
I checked this out. They're not.
Sorry. I had 2024. I don't know why it was on that. They are 28 points behind Ferrari, and there is, 28 points ahead of Red Bull.
Yep.
There you go.
So, so they're not far away, really. And, I know that you just have to think that Max is going to continue scoring no matter what. So if Yuki gets that car into the 10 and starts scoring points on a regular occurrence as well, that's when that's when I think Mercedes are in world of pain. But anywho, we I guess that sort of concludes our long review of a fairly boring race. But you know what? Thanks for tuning in. If you've made it this far, comment Belgium below. I noticed none of you did it last week, so I'm just going to keep saying a random word throughout here and just see, because if you make it there, someone will get there eventually. But we also wanted to say thanks for tuning in to the other ones as well, because the last one actually did better than we've had previously. So hopefully that means we're getting better at this. But yes, please tune in to us at the Valve Bounce on all your social medias. Yep, all around and up the other way, Damo. Yep. And
all right. Oh, that way.
that way. But we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye.